Hi there, Dr. Gary here on the road. We sell dental practices nationwide. We are dental practice brokers. Today's topic is seller of a dental practice decides midway he's going to sell the practice on his own. Let's talk about what happens. Before we start, as you know, we're now in over 20 states selling dental practices. We have our 10 employees, and we continue to work 363 days a year from 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. We just take off Christmas and Easter. You can always reach us. We'll always be available, especially when you have a deal going on and you can't get through to your attorneys or your banks. We will be there for you. This we can assure you. So, our phone number is 201-663-0935, and our email is, or our website is dentalpracticeguide.com or nationwidedentalpracticebrokers.com. Give us a ring. As you know, this information is only for entertainment purposes. It's not legal or business advice. Now, also, if you're thinking about selling to the DSOs, remember, we work with them all the time. We know who the best ones are. Often they will pay our commission, so there's no commission to you. Plus, on top of that, we will, based on certain criteria, we'll get all your legal fees reimbursed if you're selling to a DSO. It's a larger deal, and we set that up. We'll get your legal fees reimbursed upon successful closing. You got to close it first. So, it is still a hot market for sellers, so now's the time. So here's the story. We have this doctor, and we had just started out with them, and I think I sent like 1 or 2 clients over because it was a lot. It was really a popular practice. So we sent a couple clients out before we had, got signatures on all the contracts, because we had to make some changes on the contract because they had a unique real estate combination. Of course, we have a separate person that handles our real estate. We're not involved with that. We have licensed brokers that do that, so we don't actually, they handle it. But anyway, they were negotiating something. It was taking a little extra time, and my buyers wanted to get in there. They were anxious. So we started bringing buyers in. And we were getting activity. Suddenly, which I didn't know, in the meantime, the seller starts putting his own advertisements in, because the seller figures, I could do this myself. Why do I need a broker? I'm a successful dentist. I know what I'm doing. I graduated dental school. This is simply a simple project to do. And he starts doing that. Then I said, look, we can't bring any more clients. You've got to sign the contract. He said, well, I'm thinking about handling it myself. I said, look, you don't even, all due respect with you, doctor, I've been doing this 14 years. I was a dentist. I've done hundreds of transactions, and I have a 14-year track record. Plus, I got 10 people working for me that, we know how to put these deals together. And if there's a problem, we're there. He says, well, I think I can handle it on my own. It doesn't look to be that hard. Here's the problems that they don't realize, and which they really don't see, is, first of all, you've got to set up your foundation, and you have to have the right attorneys. Often what can happen is get a buyer that's going to bring his own attorney in. And if the attorney doesn't know dental that well, you're going to run into a problem. So that's one of your first issues, banking. You got to know what bankers you're going to get involved with. I met somebody says, I'm using one of the biggest banks in the country. Well, what he doesn't know, one of the biggest banks in the country has the worst track record for doing dental deals. Worst track record. They don't know what they're doing. They run into problems. They panic last minute. They don't know how to evaluate practices. But he has the answer. He has all the answers. Secondly, he didn't tell his staff that the practice is for sale. Figures he's going to do it in the evening. What happens if all of a sudden his staff finds out? We have a whole dialogue set up. If your staff finds out, even though we maintain confidentiality, what you do, how you handle it, what you say immediately. immediately what you say. But also we take precautions to make sure the staff doesn't find out, because we never know what deal's going to close and what's not going to close. Next, the seller doesn't know. Now, we have over 1,000, I think 12 or something like that, buyers we've been working with for the last 14 years. We have a pretty good pulse on buyers. We know certain things about buyers the seller may not know about. And all of our buyers are pre-qualified. All of our buyers have signed a non-disclosure agreement. There may be certain buyers that it isn't appropriate for that buyer to buy that practice, and the buyer and seller would be better off looking elsewhere. It's not a good fit, let's say. And we don't want to put the buyer through that, put the seller through that. It's just not a good fit. Seller will never know that. What is the biggest problem with this when you try to do it on your own? Because of course you're the smartest guy in the room. Of course you've been a dentist that's successful. You don't have the history and the resources upon which to draw on if you run into trouble. Or not even running into trouble, just try to keep things going smoothly. What is the biggest problem? No history, no resources, no experience. I'm used to chaos on if it happens, on every possible deal. I've got to be prepared for a closing that's occurring at 10 o'clock that morning, 7:20 in the morning, the buyer calls you. And I have a previous thing on this, by the way, a previous YouTube on it. It's 7:20 in the morning, buyer calls me and says, I'm not going through with this deal. Seller calls me at 8:30 and says, I'm not going through the deal. It was a huge misunderstanding. They didn't want to talk to each other because they were both upset at each other because of misinformation, or their interpretation of the information was wrong. How to settle it, how to get in touch with the attorneys, how to get this thing settled. Or what happens is the problem on Friday. Do you have the attorney that will work on the weekends? Is your attorney available? Is your attorney ready to circumvent the problem over the weekend? And now your bank financing is running out of time. They're going to have to make you go back into financing because you're running out of time. We track that. We stay in touch with that. There's so many moving parts because you think, I'll use the words, you say often, this is my first rodeo, not my first rodeo. You think on your 5 or 6 practices, you have enough knowledge. Well, I got to tell you, without boasting, I've been doing this 14 years and I'm still experiencing things I've never experienced before in some of the deals. Some of the most unexpected things that would never happen, but I have to be ready for chaos. I have to have the attorneys that are ready for chaos and know how to unravel it, the bankers that are ready for it, and everybody that's ready for it, and dealing with landlords that run into problems last minute. We have to be prepared. We have to be ready. We have to jump into action, and we got to be available 24/7. You as a seller that don't have the resources upon which to draw, you don't have the experiences which to draw, that's what I'm trying to tell you. You don't have it. So this doctor's going to do it on his own. Hey, it's like, I'm not going to waste my time anymore. I'll say, look, you do whatever you want to do. I'm just going to move on. I got too many other deals going on, and I'm not going to, you can't just tell me, well, do this as a non-exclusive. And if you have anybody, you just bring them by. I'm not going to do that. Because now, I don't have the time for that. It's like you're going to have the same buyers running into each other, sellers, and who's what, and it's like, forget it. Not going to do it, so it's just not worth my time. I'm not going to give up my buyer. And I'm not have my buyer exposed. I'll bring the buyer to another deal where I can at least control it and make sure everything works out well. So that's kind of how we handle it and what we do. And I've been doing this a long time. My advice is don't try to do that. Well, try to do it before you even get the broker involved. See what you can do, But we have a big list that we put, we leave you put as many exclusions as you want on there, but don't try to save money on this. Also, this one seller thinks, well, I'm just going to bring associates in and slowly ease in. He doesn't know, she doesn't know the ramifications of that. That you bring the associate in that you think you're going to buy, what price you're going to determine, what kind of restrictive covenant is going to be. What happens if it's not working out with the associate? Who's going to determine the price? What if the staff doesn't like? What if the staff gets turned off by the associate? They start leaving you. What if he or she starts dating a member of the staff? They don't get along, and somebody's quitting all of a sudden. There's a lot of problems with the slow phase-in. The biggest problem in the slow phase-in, the buyer is anxious to get something together, and you decide, well, I'm not ready. It's often the same. I'm not ready to sell right now. It's always the same story. I'm going to sell in 5 years. Never happens. So believe me, we try to bring in some information that works well. All right, thank you. Thank you for listening. Hit the subscribe button. You'll get all our new stuff. Get ready for our cruise 2025, early January. We're going to have so much fun. Call us. We'll give you the details. We got to book early because they run out of rooms. Thanks. Bye.